Friends, I'm back, and this time I'm going to talk to you about a sampling procedure which is commonly used by researchers in India, but about which I find that not much clarity exists. And this is snowball sampling. So I thought that I must make a presentation on what is snowball sampling, what is the history of it, what is the procedure, and what are different things we have to mention if we tell at all that we have used snowball sampling. It's not enough to say that we have used snowball sampling because there are many types of snowball sampling procedures, and the readers or the community of researchers would like to know many other things about the procedure which you have not mentioned. So I share my presentation, and it is this, friends, that as I said that the topic of today's presentation is snowball sampling, 10 reporting items. So I'm going to tell you what are those points on which you need to write something in your research, maybe PhD thesis, maybe an independent research, or maybe consultancy, uh, which will make uh, the exact procedure and limitations of your method clear to the readers. What is snowball sampling? It's a type of non-probability sampling. Normally, we say it's a type of non-probability sampling, although it has also been used in a um, uh, framework of probability sampling. Mostly, it is used in qualitative research, although it can also be used in quantitative research. Snowball sampling is freely used in everyday, mundane, and mainstream also. Interchangeably used with chain referral. These are other names with which this kind of sampling procedure is used. Site sampling, respondent-driven sampling, link tracing, and random walk. Though there are some fine distinctions between them. Now, it is often combined with site and day, time of the day sampling. Site means areas of the city or the rural areas from which samples have been selected, and day means whether the sampling was done in the morning or in daytime or in evening or in night, etc. It is superior to convenience sampling. So if, although it is also a type of convenience sampling, but if you compare this with other forms of convenience sampling, I can say that snowball sampling is superior to convenience sampling. And this sampling can be combined with purposive and quota sampling procedures also. What is the method? It starts with a sample. We can call it a seed of a few respondents, normally 3 to 10. You can take a seed of 3, or you can take a seed of 4 or 5. You can go up to 10. In some researches, a seed of 10 was taken. These seeds represent respondents of different types. You have to exercise a care here that when you take a seed, you must ensure that your seed represents respondents of different types in terms of their background characteristics or in terms of relevant characteristics which we are going to study. Ask each of these respondents to identify a few. How many? Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, but normally up to 3. More respondents known to them. That is contacts, their friends, associates, those whose opinion they frequently seek, or those who are like them, who fit the research criteria. That is another important point, that who fit the research criteria. If the criteria is to study, say, refugees or illegal migrants, then the criterion includes only refugee migrants and not others. Make them part of the sample. This is wave 2. First was the seed, then each individual in seed suggested you names of up to 3 individuals, or maybe 4 or 5 up to 10. And these individuals in the second stage are called respondents of wave 2. Similarly, identify future waves covering the whole population structure in the same manner or till the desired family size is reached. Normally, in snowball sampling, we use monetary incentives or coupons to seek their participation in the study. After all, your respondents will ask, why should I participate in the study? And you can use some monetary incentives or some incentive so that they participate in the study, and they also tell names of some of their contacts to participate in the study. Or they introduce you to others to participate in the study. Then you collect data on chosen characteristics and size of their network, that is, number of other members of their group they know. In general, each respondent included in wave S recruits respondents in wave S plus 1, means that seeds take you to wave 2 takes you to wave 3, and say if you have reached wave 15, then all the individuals in wave 15 suggest names of 3 more, and that consists of wave 16. What are roots of snowball sampling? And snowball sampling was developed in 1950s and 60s, and there is a basic paper by Goodman, who belonged to Chicago University. Surprisingly, this paper was published not in a sociology journal, but in the Annals of Mathematical Statistics. Goodman selected a random sample of K respondents and asked each of them to identify K individuals. K individuals who were part of the initial random sample were not included in the sample. That means in Goodman's study, the seed was not included. But normally, we find that researchers use seed also, individuals in the seed also, to collect data on relevant characteristics or size of the structure. Only those individuals who were named by the individuals in the random sampling form the first stage of sampling got included. Subsequent stages followed. He called it a S stage, K name snowball sampling, and developed a mathematical results for variance of different values of S and K. You know that the sampling theory is about biases or expected values and variances of estimates, and the same thing was done in case of snowball sampling. So Goodman obtained results for variance of the estimates and also for expected value. One question that you may ask if you are using snowball sampling, what is sample size? Now, sample size may be predetermined. You may say that I will collect data from 350 respondents of this type, and the procedure continues till the predetermined sample size is reached. Or the distribution of characteristics of participants becomes similar in successive waves, which means that you are not getting new results. Suppose you are interested in something like percentage of those involved in MSM activities, and also taking precautions to prevent them from HIV/AIDS. If that you find that in wave S and wave S plus 1, the percentage is same. That is the meaning of reaching equilibrium. So once you reach the equilibrium, wherever you reach the equilibrium, in 10th stage or 11th stage or 12th stage, you stop the sampling. Individual at the Sth stage has been asked to name K individuals. Here one has fixed the waves not the number of respondents. So you can, as you can fix the total sample size, you can use the reaching equilibrium criterion. You can also fix the number of waves you are going to include in the snowball sampling. So the sample size will be determined by one of these three considerations. How is snowball applied? Friends, snowball is an alternative to sample design when the sampling frame is not available. And this is one reason why we go for convenience sampling sometimes. When the sampling frame is not available, you cannot go for random sampling of any type, simple random or stratified random or systematic random. And then you choose a convenient or purposive sample. So this is an alternative to sample design when the sampling frame is not available. It's used for studying the structure of social networks, including estimating the number of mutual relationships or social circuits. To estimate R person clicks also, R maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. How many clicks of how many persons are found in the structure. Estimation of the characteristics of population, estimation of the size of hard to reach population. For example, working with stigmatized groups such as intravenous drug users, transgenders, sex workers, men having sex with men, refugees, and many other types of people who are not found in large number or openly, or who are stigmatized, or who do not want to reveal their identity. Or about whom you cannot have a sampling frame. It is observed that bias from the initial seed, random or non-random, reduces geometrically, which means that there will be some bias in the results, which depends on how were the initial seed selected. But as the number of waves increases, then the bias decreases and you get more and more unbiased results by using snowball sampling. So snowball sampling gives you unbiased estimates provided the number of waves is sufficiently large. Now there are some limitations of snowball sampling which you must know. Snowball sampling is a form of non-probability sampling approach. And that means in most cases, there is neither an expectation that you will use sampling theory, give confidence intervals, for example, or standard errors or relative error of the estimates, nor is it attempted. We can take it to be a non-probability sampling. It is not a single method. Remember that snowball sampling is not a single method, but it refers to a series of methods which have evolved over time. And if you are saying in your research that you have used snowball sampling, it is your responsibility to also tell to which tradition of snowball sampling you belong to. Snowball sampling yields a large variance. This is a limitation of snowball, which means results are not so reliable. A snowball sample of size 300 is not as reliable as a sample from simple random sampling of the same size. Affiliation patterns in which you may be interested depart from random mixing. Homophily across group, this means that in the seed and in the structure of people that you are going to study, people may belong to different ethnic groups or classes or men and women, gender, or you can divide them into different categories. And it's possible that there is a bias in identifying the other persons or contexts. So men may identify more of men, women may identify more of women, or people belonging to minority groups may identify more of minority groups, etc. Thus, respondents or recruiters may not recruit randomly from their personal networks. A recruiter or an individual in any way may know, say, 5% uh, of the research criteria. But if these 5 people are not of the same type, means they differ according to gender, class, minority status, um, place where they are normally found, etc., etc., then the respondents may give preference to certain types of other respondents in recruiting, and therefore they may not recruit randomly. So if they know 5%, which 3 they will select for recruitment are not a random sample, but they are biased towards certain ethnic, class, gender, or other category. So this is a limitation. So you will not get unbiased sample in that. If there is homophily, then you will not get a random sample and so an unbiased sample. Snowball sampling assumes that the network of the target population forms a single component, has small world properties, and its network sizes fit a power law. This is a technical point, and if you are a social scientist, you can even ignore this point. But I thought that you must be sensitive to some of these fine aspects of snowball sampling, so I'm mentioning. There is a lot of literature on snowball sampling now, and you can read it and understand more than nitty-gritties of this. Another limitation of snowball sampling is lack of external validity, generalizability. It's a convenience sample, so generalizability can also be a problem, and representativeness, because it is not always unbiased. So one can question the representativeness of the snowball sampling. Snowball sampling may lead to overrepresentation of those who are more cooperative and those who are more networked. In some researches, it's found that women are more cooperative and women are more networked with other women of similar types. So your sample may have overrepresentation of women. You must ensure that there is no overrepresentation of women or men, and your sample represents all types of people. Sometimes the respondents may not have strong social relations. So when you ask them, suggest us names of some people whom we can interview in the second stage, or you ask them whom they are related to for certain types of activities, they may not mention many because they are not themselves tied to such networks, and they carry out certain activities, hidden activities, criminal activities in isolation, and they are not networked with other people involving in similar activities. Sometimes it fails to roll, which means that respondents are not further identified. You have reached wave 5, and when you ask individuals in wave 5, suggest us some more names, or who are your contacts, or who are other people who are involved in activities similar to yours, then they may refuse. So the sample does not roll at that stage. Sometimes it does not roll in the second or third wave itself, and that is also a limitation of snowball sampling. Now, snowball sampling gives you an estimate. I said mostly it is unbiased, but there have been some attempts to improve the estimates obtained from snowball sampling by using the formula. This formula is weighted estimates. By obtaining weighted estimates with weights as the inverse of number of contacts or degree. So those values of those individuals who have more contacts are weighted less, and values of those individuals who have less contacts are weighted more. So you find that in the formula 1 upon sigma I goes 1 to n, 1 upon degree capital Xi, then sigma Fxi. Fxi is the value of ith individual, and degree Xi means how many contacts ith individual has. So this value of Fxi is deflated by the weight degree Xi. Please note that snowball sampling provides unbiased estimates, but they require a higher sample size. Why? Because the variance is large. And it has been found in simulation studies that the variance of snowball sampling can be 10 times the variance of simple random size. Means if you take two samples of the same size, one snowball sampling, another simple random sampling, then the variance of snowball sampling is 10 times the variance of simple random sampling. Simulation studies show this. So that means if you want a snowball sampling which is as good or as efficient as a simple random sampling, you must go for a higher sample size. So if a snowball sampling of size 300 gives you variance, the same variance which you will get from a simple random sample of size 30. And you have to take care of homophily, means whether there is certain kinds of segregations or heterogeneities in the population that you are studying, which will determine if there is any bias in recruiting further in the next wave. There are also computer packages available for analyzing data. When you estimate the size of certain types of population, hidden populations, or you want to improve estimates from different waves, then there are two computer packages, RDS, respondent-driven sampling 1 and respondent-driven sampling 2. There are some minor differences. Normally, you will not use these computer packages. Social scientists do not make use of these computer packages for estimation of results, parameters in snowball sampling or convenient sampling. But if somebody wants to use it, you see, snowball sampling has been used by both quantitative researchers as well as qualitative researchers. So quantitative researchers also look for improved estimates by using different statistical or analytical methodologies, and RDS1, RDS2 help in achieving those purposes. RDS1 is based on patterns of recruitment, and RDS2 is based on network size only. The main point which I want to put before you is that if you are saying that you are using snowball sampling, there are 10 other things you need to report. I find that those who have used snowball sampling in methodology, they only write snowball sampling or respondent-driven sampling, but do not tell anything else. I'm telling you that to make your research design more effective or more acceptable to people, other researchers, community of researchers, you need to tell 10 things. You need to report 10 things if you are using a snowball sampling. 1, number of seed respondents. You started with 2 respondents or 3 respondents or 4 or 5 or 10. This is 1, because this is going to affect your results in some way. Second, how was the total size fixed? If you have collected data from 500 respondents, how was this 500 fixed? Third, what were the considerations in fixing number of waves? If you have fixed number of waves, 2, 3, 4, 10, then how was the number of waves fixed. What were your considerations in fixing the number of waves? 4. Or at least mention that this was the number of waves. Say that this was my total sample size, this was the size of the seed, and this was the number of waves. 4th, method of selection of the first wave of respondents. Have you selected first wave of respondents randomly or in a non-random manner? Have you taken care of stratification or heterogeneity or differences? How did you represent urban and rural areas? If the people are found in different parks or railway stations or sites or churches or mosques or temples, how did you ensure that there is no bias in selecting the sample? The first wave of respondent means the seed. How did you ensure unbiasedness in selection of seeds? 5th, comments on the adequacy of factors thus identified. So, if you are saying that you have taken into consideration certain things, certain factors, so that the results are unbiased, what were those factors and how adequate those factors are in reaching an unbiased sample? What question was asked to individuals to identify the new wave of respondents? I wrote in the initial slide that from individuals in wave 1, you recruit individuals of wave 2. And to identify individuals of wave 2, you ask certain questions. The questions may be your contacts, association, who are the people who introduce you to this activity, or whom do you respect in this kind of activity or in this kind of network, whom do you respect more? There are certain questions which you will ask to reach the second wave of respondents. What were your questions? 7. How many new respondents were identified by a respondent at wave S? Was it same for all waves, or how was non-response handled? First is in different ways, 1, 2, 3, 4. How many new individuals were identified? Sometimes in different waves, you may identify different numbers of individuals, mention them. And if some individuals who have been identified by earlier recruiters refuse to give you interview, how did you handle the non-response? 8th, degree of context. How many people of each category one individual knew? Analytical method. Which analytical method did you use to analyze the data? And 10th, degree of cooperation received from respondents, because this will help us, or this will help the community of researchers also to reflect on the representativeness, adequacy, and external validity of your estimates. These are some references. I thought that those who want to read more on snowball sampling must be given some references. So these are 8 references which you can, 7 references which you can read. I have given the name or the names of the authors, title of the article, and also the journal in which this article was published. Some of them are available on net. For some, you will require some joining JSTOR or something, so you can find them. Thank you. So, friends, the motivation to give this lecture came from the fact that I often find PhD students or social science researchers mentioning that they use snowball sampling and nothing else. Now, if you are using snowball sampling, I told you that you must say something more, and I identified 10 items on which something more has to be said. I hope this lecture is useful to you, and you can send me your responses. Thank you.